Black perspectives haven't always been centered in the telling of America's story. Now, we're taking center stage. Introducing NPR's Black Stories, Black Truths, a collection of Black-led stories from NPR's podcasts. Search NPR Black Stories, Black Truths wherever you get your podcasts.
Bloomington city officials say a new hockey team is just one step of many they see pumping new life into the city's downtown arena. The city took over management of the arena during the pandemic when all entertainment venues were shut down. Bloomington Deputy City Manager Billy Tyus tells WGLT's Eric Stock the owners of the Bloomington Bison, Indianapolis-based Hallett Sports, will bring a lot more than just hockey to the community. They'll bring entertainment that will have broader appeal.
It's the next in a string of things happening at the arena. You know, one of the things that this council has charged us with is really injecting new life into that building. So as we've brought operations in-house, we've been doing a lot of work, Anthony Nelson and his team and others, to really inject new life into the arena. And so this is the next in a string of things that we've seen happening over the last year and a half, and more to come. So yeah, we're excited.
And of course, the city has had several hockey teams in the past, going back a number of years. None of them lasted more than several years. How will the city define success in this arrangement, and what is your expectation that this will be different?
I think to some degree we will know it for sure when we see it. Of course, the numbers will matter, and attendance and sales, and their meeting standards, all of which we've built into the agreement with them. There will be performance standards, but that's at a minimum. You know, I think that this community is not shy about sharing how they feel about something. And I think that as the tide starts to turn with that building and as they get to know this team and this organization, we'll sense a feel for, you know, what we're hearing from people. And that will be just as important in terms of how we're measuring success with this organization and the hockey team.
So the agreement that you had alluded to had called for a benchmark of 2,200 fans per game. What if the ownership group fails to meet that?
Well, one of the things that we've learned from past experiences, as you referenced, is the need to build in performance standards, but also opportunities for the organization to fix those things. And so there are, as you said, there is a minimum standard of 2,200 people per game, attendees per game, but also a minimum of $20,000 in food and beverage sales on average per game. So if the team is not able to meet that, it calls for them to, on the food and beverage side, to be able to pay a portion of the difference in order to make up the gap. I think it's 70% of the difference under the $20,000. On the attendance side, they would have to come forward with a plan for addressing attendance. And at the end of the day, if they don't meet those standards or they're not able to make those adjustments, we can hold them in default and we can default the agreement. And so we don't want to do that, obviously, and we for sure don't think we'll get there, because they're very confident that they can meet the attendance standards and the food and beverage standards based on their experience, both in other markets and what they've seen in other places.
In fact, the owners have said they anticipate 4,500 fans per game, about double the minimum. They say that's based on the average that they see in the ECHL, of which they were a part. Is it fair to compare Bloomington Normal with other markets in the ECHL, which are predominantly much bigger?
I think it's absolutely a fair comparison. And I think that based on what we've seen in a couple of weeks since we've announced that, I don't think they'll have an issue meeting those standards. Attendance isn't just about the size of your market. It's about the passion of the fans who exist here. And what we've seen even before this announcement in terms of requests from the hockey community, there is a very passionate community here who has been looking for something like this. The other thing I'll say is that based on the 2 weeks since there was an announcement, they have seen more than 400 requests or 400 applications for season tickets. And so, you know, that's a lot of season tickets in the course of just a week. And so if that's any indicator, they won't have any problem meeting those standards.
And how do the city and the Bison, as they're going to be called, come up with the profit estimate of $20 million over 20 years?
Well, I want to clarify. We've never said it would be $20 million over 20 years. What we've said is that we're estimating roughly $750,000 per year in profit based on revenues and estimated expenses. Now, those are estimates based on, so for example, you know, average costs or average expenditures for people at sporting events of this type, and revenues based on what we think including rents, but also expenditures, like I just said, for food and beverage, for what people spend on hot dogs and beer and those kinds of things as well. They were based on averages and on experiences from other places. Now, having said that, we believe we'll meet those standards, but they're estimates. So at those levels, that was what we based our estimates on. The other thing I want to mention is the fact that, there will be $1.50 per ticket fee attached to ticket sales, which will go towards arena maintenance. It's not a new building, and there are upgrades and maintenance items that will need to happen, not for hockey by itself, but throughout the building. Every year we spend money on maintenance. That's not figured into the profit estimate that we've given.
And as we continue on Sound Ideas with Billy Tyus, Deputy City Manager for the City of Bloomington. So the arena has hosted other sports besides hockey. There was indoor football for a number of years. Bloomington had a minor league basketball team. For a brief time, the arena has hosted high school basketball, the Stay From Holiday Classic, some postseason events. Are there discussions to bringing any or all of those back in some way?
Absolutely, and we're open. One of the things that we've been able to do by bringing arts and entertainment in-house under the direction of Anthony Nelson, who's the director of our Arts and Entertainment Department, is to make sure that we're being very, very aggressive in recruitment of events, both those that you've mentioned, but also others. We want to make sure that there's a large number of events, but also a diversity of events that appeal to a wide variety of audiences, and we're starting to see that, frankly. One of the things that I'm telling people, like in the next month or so, we're going to see 30,000 people through the doors of the arena for events that have been planned. Both, IHSA, there are 3 events planned. I think there's wrestling and dance and cheer, that they have a very large fan base that come, to those events. We've got a hockey game planned. We've got other events planned, and literally 30,000 people is not a small number. And so, we're excited about that and about where things are going. In the last 3 months, we've had a couple of shows that have been sellouts or near sellouts. We've had shows back in April that were profitable. So we're moving the needle in the building. There's still a lot of work to do, but we're definitely moving the needle.
With the city potentially getting up to $1 million a year from this hockey team that will be in town for who knows how long, but the agreement is for up to 20 years. Going back to the last 12 months pre-COVID, the last time there were regular events at the arena had a net operating loss of about $370,000. Do you anticipate now having a full-time hockey tenant back in there will get the arena out of the operating red?
Well, arenas across the country, honestly, and I hate to say it, typically don't make a profit. They're not designed to do so. However, one of our goals is to, for sure, reduce the amount of the operating deficit. I would love for that building to be profitable. But, the reality of the situation is that doesn't often happen. But we're making a go of it. I will tell you, it would be a goal of us to at least to get to break even. And we're working towards that. But again, I don't want to set a standard that's unattainable, because there are other things that go into the operations of a building like that day to day, where you're not having events every day. So it's a difficult thing to do.
That was Bloomington Deputy City Manager Billy Tyus speaking with WGLT's Eric Stock. Tyus says the city has a revenue-sharing agreement with the Hockey Ownership Group for arena naming rights to replace Grossinger Motors. That earlier agreement has lapsed.